Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to another video. And as always, before I get started, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Heavenly Father and His only begotten Son, Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachwadash, and next double honors to the head apostles / elder bishops of the great millstone who teach and who rule well. Peace, blessings, and safety to all you sincere Akim. Keep pushing, keep believing, and keep the faith, regardless of what people hear and what they forbear. So this is going to be a reading of First Esdras, the first chapter. All right, and this will be added to the Apocrypha playlist on my channel. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and dive right into it. Yahweh Rachazah, meaning the Heavenly Father's will, is edifying to the elect. All right. So starting off in the top. Okay, and this is just to give a brief background. Okay, this is going into King Josias. All right, and his great Passover that he had. This is spoken of in the book of 1st and 2nd Kings and the Chronicles as well. All right, but that's the setting for this. Okay, and then this chapter is going to go into, his sons that came after him. All right, that did evil in the sight of the Lord. Okay, and eventually led to the captivity of Babylon under Nebuchadnezzar. So we'll go ahead and read through this chapter. Okay, and once again, Yahweh Rachazah, meaning Heavenly Father's will, is edifying to the elect. All right, so this is First Esdras chapter 1, and verse 1. It says, "And Josias held the feast of the Passover in Jerusalem unto his Lord, and offered the Passover the 14th day of the first month, having set the priests according to their daily courses, being arrayed in long garments in the temple of the Lord." Okay, so the priests, that's one scripture that stands out. All right, the priests of Yahweh Bashmiel Shai, which we are, okay, as it tells you in 1 Peter chapter 2, "For you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood." All right, the priesthood, all right, wears long garments. That's the reason why we wear our garments down to the foot. Yahweh Shai also wore a long garment. Okay, it tells you that he wore a garment down to the foot. Okay, that's exactly how it says it in the book of Revelation. So this is another precept on that. All right, having set the priests according to their daily courses, being arrayed in long garments in the temple of the Lord. And he spake unto the Levites, the holy ministers of Israel, that they should hallow themselves unto the Lord, to set the holy ark of Yahweh in the house that King Solomon the son of David had built. And said, "You shall no more bear the ark upon your shoulders. Now therefore serve Yahweh your power, and minister unto his people Israel, and prepare you after your families and kindreds, according as David the king of Israel prescribed, and according to the magnificence of Solomon his son, and standing in the temple according to the several dignity of the families of you the Levites, who minister in the presence of your brethren the children of Israel. Offer the Passover in order, and make ready the sacrifices for your brethren, and keep the Passover according to the commandment of the Lord, which was given unto Moses. And unto the people that was found there, Josias gave 30,000 lambs and kids and 3,000 calves. These things were given to the king's allowance, according as he has promised to the people, to the priests, and to the Levites. And Helkias, Zacharias, Silas, the governors of the temple, gave to the priests for the Passover 2,600 sheep and 300 calves. And Jechonias and Semaeus, and Nathaniel his brother, and Asabias, and Okiel, and Joram, captains over thousands, gave to the Levites for the Passover 5,000 sheep and 700 calves. And when these things were done, the priests and the Levites, having the unleavened bread, stood in very comely order according to the kindreds, and according to the several dignities of the fathers before the people, to offer to the Lord, as it is written in the book of Moses. Thus did they in the morning. And they roasted the Passover with fire, as appertaineth as for the sacrifices, they sod them in brass pots and pans with a good savor, and set them up before all the people. And afterward they prepared for themselves and for the priests their brethren, the sons of Aaron. So they had a great big Passover, all right, and did many sacrifices unto the Lord at this time. It says, "For the priests offered the fat until night, and the Levites prepared it for themselves, and the priests their brethren, the sons of Aaron. The holy singers, also the sons of Asaph, were in their order. Okay, and Asaph is mentioned in the book of Psalms, okay, multiple times. You know, the songs of Asaph. All right, it says, were in their order according to the appointment of David, to wit, Asaph, Zacharias, and Jeduthun, who was of the king's retinue. All right, which that word retinue is just another word for counselor. So they were of the king's council. It says, moreover, the porters were at every gate. It was not lawful for any to go from his ordinary service, for their brethren the Levites prepared for them. Thus were the things that belonged to the sacrifices of Yahweh accomplished in that day, that they might hold the Passover, and offer sacrifices upon the altar of Yahweh according to the commandment of King Josias, which King Josias was a righteous king. So the children of Israel which were present held the Passover at that time, and the feast of sweet bread 7 days. And such a Passover was not kept in Israel since the time of the prophet Samuel. Yea, all the kings of Israel had held not such a Passover as Josias, and the priests and the Levites and the Jews held with all Israel that were found dwelling at Jerusalem. In the 18th year of the reign of Josias was this Passover kept, and the works of Josias were upright before his power, with an heart full of godliness. As for the things that came to pass in his time, they were written in former times, concerning those that sinned and did wickedly against Yahweh above all people and kingdoms, and how they grieved him exceedingly, so that the words of Yahweh rose up against Israel. All right, guys like Manasseh. All right, that was a wicked king of Judah. Okay, and you read about these. Like I said, this is set in the time of First Kings. Okay, you can read about that. So, continuing on though, it says, now after all these acts of Josias, it came to pass that Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, came to raise war at Carchemish upon the Euphrates, and Josias went out against him. But the king of Egypt sent to him, saying, what have I to do with thee, O king of Judea? I am not sent out from Yahweh power against thee, for my war is upon Euphrates, and now Yahweh is with me. Yea, Yahweh is with me, hasting me forward. Depart from me, and be not against Yahweh. Howbeit, Josias did not turn back his chariot from him, but undertook to fight with him, not regarding the words of the prophet Jeremiah spoken by the mouth of the Lord. Okay, and I got to do some cross-reference to figure out exactly what it's talking about. I believe that, if I'm not mistaken, okay, that certain people were trying to go back into Egypt. Jeremiah was telling them not to do that. All right, but that's like I said, I need to go in and do the research to tie it together. All right, because this is talking about the prophet Jeremiah. Okay, so matter of fact, let me see if I can find that while we're here. Let's see. Okay. Boom. Josiah. You probably could search it up. Okay, yeah, so 2 Kings here. This is where this is taking place. You see 2 Kings is talking about this great Passover. 2 Kings, the 23rd chapter. All right. Now, his name should also pop up in the book of Jeremiah. Let's see. Okay, I see. Bear with me, Salakia. Okay, so Jeremiah is taking place in the same time period. All right, but okay, I'm just going through. Let's see. Okay, so in the beginning of Jeremiah, that's where this is taking place. Now, the days of the son of Ammon, king of Judah, in the 13th year. Okay, so somewhere in here it's gonna mention. Let's do this. Let's type in Egypt now, and look for that in the beginning of the book of Jeremiah. Okay, and should see something about Jeremiah telling him, giving him instructions concerning the king of Egypt. Okay, let's see. Oh, went too far. Let's go back to 19. Oh, still too far. Let's go back to 18. Okay, so we're getting closer. Let's try 16. Okay, so let's see. Alright, well, like I said, doesn't seem like I'm going to be able to find it right now. But like I said, I'll find it, and how righteous, I'll put it in the comment section of this video later on. Okay, so yeah, yep. I have to research it to find it. But anyways, let's go back. Let's go back to First Esdras. So as we're reading, okay, that continuing on where we left off, First Esdras 1:28. Howbeit Josias did not turn back his chariot from him, but undertook to fight with him, not regarding the words of the prophet Jeremiah, spoken by the mouth of the Lord, but joined battle with him in the plain of Megiddo. And the princes came against Josias, and then said the king unto his servants, Carry me away out of the battle, for I am very weak. And immediately his servants took him away out of the battle. Then gat he up upon his second chariot, and being brought back to Jerusalem, died, and was buried in his father's sepulchre. And in all Jewry they mourned for Josias. Yea, Jeremiah the prophet lamented for Josias, and the chief men with the women made lamentation for him unto this day. And this was given out for an ordinance to be done continually in all the nation of Israel. These things are written in the book of the stories of the kings of Judah, and every one of the acts that Josias did, and his glory, and his understanding in the law of the Lord, and the things that he have done before, and the things now recited are reported in the book of the kings of Israel and Judea. Okay, and just for a footnote to myself, okay, they said that Josias was spoken of around 2 Kings, the 23rd chapter. All right, if I look up Jeremiah's, let's see what comes up. Possibly, nope. I was gonna say possibly Jeremiah we mentioned in 2 Kings. Okay. So, anyways, like I said, I'll look into that later on. But right now, this is just a reading. And also, there's another brother named Bakar Amath. All right, he does video breakdowns on these chapters. So I'll post. He probably have a little bit more detailed. So I'll post his video as well in the comment section. How righteous are. All right, but let's continue on. All right, so it says First Esdras 1, okay, in verse 34. All right, it says, And the people took Joachaz, the son of Josias, and made him king instead of Josias his father, when he was 23 years old. And he reigned in Judea and in Jerusalem 3 months. And then the king of Egypt deposed him from reigning in Jerusalem. And he set a tax upon the land of 100 talents of silver and 1 talent of gold. The king of Egypt also made King Joachim, his brother, king of Judea and Judah and Jerusalem. So like a king of Judea and Jerusalem. And he bound Joachim and the nobles, but Zedekiah, his brother, he apprehended and brought him out of Egypt. It says 25 years old was Joachim when he was made king in the land of Judea and Jerusalem, and he did evil before the Lord. Wherefore against him Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, came up and bound him with a chain of brass and carried him into Babylon. This is spoken of in Kings as well. Let me get that right quick. I'm gonna pull it up. I think it's 2 Kings 24. Let's see. Okay, 2 Kings 24. Boom, here it is. All right, 2 Kings 24 and verse 8. And Joachim was 18 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned in Jerusalem 3 months, and his mother Nehushta, the daughter of Elnathan of Jerusalem. And he did that which was evil in the sight of Yahweh, according to all that his father had done. Okay, and it says at the time the servants of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came up against him, and the city was besieged. And Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came against the city, and his servants did besiege it. All right, so there you go. Let's see. Boom. Okay, let's continue on though. So going back. All right, continuing on. First Esdras 1 and verse where is that at? First Esdras 1 and verse 39. All right, I'll read it again. 25 years old was Joachim when he was made king in the land of Judea and Jerusalem, and did evil before the Lord. Wherefore against him Nebuchadnezzar the king of Babylon came up and bound him with a chain of brass and carried him into Babylon. And Nebuchadnezzar also took of the holy vessels of the Lord and carried them away and set them in his own temple at Babylon. Okay, this was, I believe, 587 BCE. Let's look that up. All right, when did Nebuchadnezzar, here we go. Yep, okay, I was right. Nebuchadnezzar destroyed Jerusalem in 587 or 586 BC. He led the Babylonian army to conquer and destroy the city, including the first temple, during the final stages of the Judahite revolts against Babylon. This event marked the end of the kingdom of Judah and the beginning of the Babylonian exile. All right, and Amalek, okay, the Edomites came up against and helped the Babylonians sack the temple, okay, and sack Jerusalem. Let's get that right quick. Okay, that's mentioned in Psalms, the 50th chapter. All right, Psalms chapter 50 and verse, let's see, where is it at? Psalms chapter 50 and verse 16. But unto the wicked Yahweh saith, What hast thou to do to declare my statutes, that thou shouldest take my covenant in thy mouth, seeing thou hatest instruction and castest my words behind thee? When thou sawest a thief, then thou consentest with him, and hast been partakers with adulterers. All right, and that's going into, we can look that up. All right, Esau helped Babylonians sack Jerusalem. Let's see what comes up if I type that in. All right, tells you, boom, Andrews University, Edom and the fall of Jerusalem. Okay, biblical accounts and some interpretations suggest that the Edomites, descendants of Esau, were involved in some capacity during the Babylonian sack of Jerusalem, which occurred in 587 or 586 BCE. All right. Okay, it says the prophecy of Obadiah. All right, this book specifically condemns the Edomites for their actions, stating they stood aloof while strangers carried off his wealth and foreigners entered his gates and cast lots for Jerusalem, and that they behaved as though they were in league with them. This indicates at least a passive complicity and potentially active support for the Babylonians during the siege and destruction of Jerusalem. There you go. And then the Psalms 137, okay, where they said how the Edomites encouraged the Babylonians, saying, raise it, even to the foundation thereof. All right, so there you go. So let's go back. All right, first Esdras, just a little background story. This is history, and I'm just pouring out details of it. Of course, we've got to all do our own research, and like I said, if I can find the brother's video on it, I'll post it in the comment section for more details on this. All right, continuing on though, First Esdras 1 and verse 42. It says, but those things that are recorded of him, okay, Jehoiakim, and of his uncleanness and impiety are written in the chronicles of the kings. And Joachim, so you have Salakia, you have and they're spelled the same way, which is kind of strange. Yeah, Jehoiakim, sometimes I get those mixed up. And Joachim his son reigned in his stead, and he was made king, being 18 years old, and reigned but 3 months and 10 days in Jerusalem, and did evil before the Lord. So after a year, Nebuchadnezzar sent and caused him to be brought into Babylon with the holy vessels of the Lord. Okay, same thing we read in 2 Kings 24. And made Zedekiah king of Judea and Jerusalem, when he was 21 years old, and he reigned 11 years. And he did evil also in the sight of the Lord, and cared not for the words that were spoken unto him by the prophet Jeremiah from the mouth of Yahweh. And after that King Nebuchadnezzar had made him to swear by the name of Yahweh, he forswore himself and rebelled and hardened his heart, and he transgressed the laws of Yahweh, power of Israel. The governors also of the people and of the priests did many things against the laws, and passed all the pollutions of all nations, and defiled the temple of Yahweh, which was sanctified in Jerusalem. Nevertheless, the power of their fathers sent by his messenger to call them back, because he spared them in his tabernacle also. Okay, and that would be the prophets. All right, Jeremiah was around during his time. Okay, the Jeremiah follows the book of the kings of Judea. Okay, First and Second Kings. It says, nevertheless, the God of their fathers sent by his messenger to call them back, because he spared them in his tabernacle also. But they had his messengers in derision, and look, when Yahweh spake unto them, they made a sport of his prophets. Let's get a precept on this. Okay, let's get 2 Chronicles 36 and 2 Chronicles 36, and we'll just get 15 and 16. Alright, KJV. Alright, 2 Chronicles 36 and 15, it says, I'll read it, start at verse 14. Moreover, all the chief of the priests and the people transgressed very much after all the abominations of the heathen, and polluted the house of Yahweh, which he had hallowed in Jerusalem. And Yahweh, power of their fathers, sent to them by his messengers, rising up betimes and sending, because he had compassion on his people and on his dwelling place. But they mocked the messengers of Yahweh, and despised his words, and misused his prophets, until the wrath of Yahweh arose against his people, till there was no remedy. Therefore he brought upon them the king of the Chaldees, okay, which is the Babylonians, who slew their young men with the sword in the house of their sanctuary, and had no compassion upon young man or maiden, old man, or him that stooped for age. He gave them all into his hand. And all the vessels of the house of Yahweh, great and small, and the treasures of the house of Yahweh, and the treasures of the king and of his princes, all these he brought to Babylon. Okay, so there you go. So it all parallels. It's all talking about the same events. All right, First Esdras 1. Okay, in verse 53. All right, so 52, it says, so far forth that he, being wroth with his people for their great ungodliness, commanded the kings of the Chaldees to come up against them, who slew their young men with the sword, yea, even within the compass of their holy temple, and spared neither young man or maid, old man nor child among them, for he delivered all into their hands. And they took all the holy vessels of Yahweh, both great and small, with the vessels of the ark of the Most High, and the king's treasures, and carried them away into Babylon. As for the house of Yahweh, they burnt it, and brake down the walls of Jerusalem, and set fire upon her towers. And as for her glorious things, they never ceased, till they had consumed and brought them all to naught. And the people that were not slain with the sword he carried away into Babylon, who became servants to him and his children, until the Persians reigned, to fulfill the word of Yahweh spoken by the mouth of Jeremiah, until the land had enjoyed her Sabbaths, and the whole time of her desolation shall she rest, until the full term of 70 years. Okay, and the children of Israel went into Babylon for 70 years. Okay, pursuing to Jeremiah 29, the 29th chapter. Okay. So, and also Daniel spoke about that as well. Okay, Daniel, I think Daniel, the second chapter, maybe the first chapter goes into that, how they went into Babylon captivity for 70 years. But it says the same thing here, right, in this 2 Chronicles 36. Okay, so there you go. That's it. All right, I'm going to close it out there. That's been the reading of First Esdras, the first chapter, which parallels with Kings, the 1st and 2nd Kings, and the Chronicles, and Jeremiah and Daniel. Jeremiah and Daniel were the prophets. Daniel was the prophet of those that were exiled into Babylon. Okay, and Jeremiah was the prophet of the kings of Judea, primarily before they went into Babylon. Okay, so that's it. Just some background. Like I said, if I could find a video, the brother Bakar Amath, all right, he does excellent chapter breakdowns. I should have watched this video before I did this one, but that's okay, because every brother pulls out different nuggets of information. So if I can find it, I'm going to post it in the comment section of this video. And hey, how Ratchazal is edifying, a little bit of history. So that being said, I'm going to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Heavenly Father and his only begotten Son, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachash. And until next time, Shabbat Shalom, and Abad Babal.